Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. Really happy to have you here, and I'm so excited for my guest, who's also an awesome friend. I love her so much, and so you will love her too shortly. For nearly 20 years, Beth's passion and profession has been about helping thousands of entrepreneurs and spiritual seekers discover their life purpose. And she helps them get paid for their purpose and really live their ideal lifestyle through a breakthrough, time-proven system called scientific hand analysis. In her late 20s, she suffered a debilitating spiritual crisis, which I have a feeling we're going to talk about. So I'll say no more, but I will say that Beth is such a light, and she just lights up the world, and she lights up my life. And we actually met, okay? I knew of her, and we were at a party and sat together through a mutual friend, Allie Brown, sat together at dinner, and she ended up giving me a very quick analysis right there. And I was talking about wanting to write this book called Heal Your Hunger, and she's like, you have to write that book. Yes, you write that book now. Now that was like 7 years ago, so it didn't happen right then and there, but it is happening next month. So I'm almost there, following your guidance. So yes, praise God for that, and it's super exciting. So without any further ado, welcome Beth to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's such a pleasure to be here.
So happy you're here.
Yeah.
So much. Gosh, I have so much to talk to you about, but let's start with your story. What was that personal, debilitating spiritual crisis you went through, and how did it change you?
Well, yeah, I think I've always been a bit of an odd one in that the pursuit of financial success and possessions was never really motivating for me. And yet I always had money. It's an interesting thing because I knew one needs money. So even as a kid, I think I had my first job when I was 10. I always had money. And then in my 20s, I was doing all sorts of odd jobs so that I had money. But the spiritual crisis came when I was working a pretty decent job in marketing for a design company. When I was going home at night and felt this foreboding, this profound loneliness and sadness, and I couldn't pin it on something. There wasn't a reason. My dog hadn't died. I hadn't had a horrible breakup. I wasn't struggling financially. But my health was starting to tank. I would get these like bronchial infections and sinus infections that wouldn't go away. And I had some awareness, this is not just physical, right? It's not an allergy in my environment. There's something else going on here. And what really woke me up to the fact there was a problem, other than I was crying myself to sleep a lot and living off Diet Coke, which I don't recommend as a food plan. Yeah, especially with this show, right? Like not a food plan. So I think that was affecting my mood too. Like my friends would come over. All there was in my fridge was like mustard, ketchup, and Diet Coke, and maybe a frozen meal. Like I still don't, I try to cook. I really do, but it's just still not my thing. So, I wasn't really fortified, and I'd come home to my white apartment and cry. And so I got on the phone with a friend, and I told her, I said, I've got this thing in my lungs and my sinuses, and I just feel down. I don't know what's going on. And she said, I think you're dying. I said, what? What do you mean you think I'm dying? She goes, yeah, I think you should go to the hospital. So I go to the hospital, and they run these blood tests, and sure enough, they're like, your white blood cell count is like 20,000. Like, you should be dead now. It's supposed to be like 1,000. I'm like, oh my God, do I have a horrible disease? They're like, no, we can't find anything wrong with you, other than you have a sinus infection. So maybe just take some antibiotics, but this is weird. So even the doctors were stumped. So I go back to my friend, call her up. I'm like, they can't find really anything wrong with me other than I have a sinus infection. I should take some medicine. She said, no. You are having a crisis. You are disconnected from why you're here, and you're a deep person. You're a spiritual person. You're a sensitive person, and you don't know what you're doing or where you're going. and you need some direction. And then she proceeded to tell me to come to her class, which I did. I went to her class. I thought, well, that's a good sales technique. Tell them you're dying and then tell them to come to your class. But no, she was legit, because she was really responding to my. So I went to the class and I began to enter into this spiritual journey. And I became aware in that spiritual journey, Tricia, that I didn't know what my purpose was. Like, why am I here? Why am I here? Like, I'm not here to go to work so I can make money to pay bills. Like, what? This makes no sense to me. Did we go to all this trouble to incarnate? I mean, all those sperm headed towards the egg, and like one sperm hits it and it's you. And this is what it is. I can't buy this. I can't stomach this. This is not correct. And I knew it. I felt it in my body that I'd been sold a bill of goods that was BS. And I was angry about it. So I kept taking all these classes and I wasn't getting any closer. Like, I still don't know what my purpose is. So I got more depressed. And finally, I had read the book by Carolyn Myss, Anatomy of the Spirit. Love that book. And that book, if I ever get to sit with her one day, I hope I do before she dies, and just tell her, like, she saved my life. That woman saved my life because of her book. That's the power of a book. And in the book, she said something along the lines of, when you pray to God, be very careful, because all prayers are answered. So before you ask God to come heal your life, get ready for your life to be rearranged. And because you can't bargain with God, like, okay, I'll change, but don't take the Mercedes. You know what I mean? Like you can't, it doesn't work that way. So she said, be very careful when you ask God to change your life. However, when you do ask, God will come in and change your life. So I thought, I haven't prayed since Catholic school. I got kicked out of Bible study. Like, I wasn't the praying type, but I thought, like, nothing, the antibiotics aren't working and going to all these classes isn't working. This is my last resort. So I literally got down on my knees by my bed and I prayed. And I said, God, universe, whoever's listening, if you will show me my life's purpose, I will be your humble servant. I will go wherever you ask me to go. I will do whatever you ask me to do. I will do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes. But please, God, help me. God, help me, because I am at my wit's end. And I had started having suicidal thoughts, which really freaked me out because I was known as the popular happy girl, right? I had lots of friends, and I was always lifting other people up, and nobody knew also, by the way, right? I was completely suffering in silence because I was so ashamed and embarrassed that I couldn't answer what seemed to me not an unreasonable question. So long story short, a knock comes on the door, and it's this little cute woman named Terry Lynn. And she's been sent by a friend to read my palms. And I got to tell you, I kept telling this friend, Pammy, I don't want my hands read. That's stupid. I don't believe in that stuff. This is crazy, right? She's like, oh, come on, just try it. So finally, I just relented because I love Pammy and what the heck. So Terry Lynn shows up and she isn't even in my apartment yet. She's like, let me see your hands. And I'm like, oh, God, she's going to tell me I've got 2 years to live and the tall, dark stranger's never coming and this isn't good. And I'm like, all right, I have nothing to lose, right? I've been suicidal. So what's it matter? Hold my hands out. And she says to me, wow, you are not living the life you've meant to live. You're meant to live. You're not living your life's purpose. I'm like, well, yeah. And then she came in and gave me a reading and she told me my life's purpose. Can you imagine? I cried through the whole thing. I can't even tell you what she said, really. And I tried to play, that was back in the day of cassette recorders. We're talking like 1997, right? So 20 years ago. I can't even believe it's been 20 years. And I remember trying to put that cassette in my Ford Escort, right? And all it did was play backwards like the Beatles records, right? And I was like, I couldn't hear it. So I'm like, I guess I'm not supposed to hear this. But what I did take away was that I was here to be a spiritual teacher and be a role model for people around life purpose. And I thought, well, that would explain why finding my life purpose was so important, because as it turns out, I'm here to help people find their life purpose, which is the role of the spiritual teacher. right? Is to help people figure out, why are you here? Because once you know why you're here, that informs every decision you make, including what you eat. It's like, is this going to nourish my purpose, or is this going to like sabotage my goals? It becomes much, much clearer. So anyway, that's what happened. And I decided that I wanted to learn this hand analysis thing because it so rocked my world. And I thought, if I could give this experience to other people, wow. So here I am, 20 years later. In fact, I'm teaching a class today. It's one of our online classes it's a beginner class. It's our level. We have all these levels, right? It's a level 1 class where we're going to identify fingerprints. And I'm in the process of putting it into our online school. And we have students now from all over the world. Like, they come from all over Egypt and India, Canada. I mean, it's remarkable. I even have students fly in from around the world for our live training. So it kind of blows me away that 20 years later, I am still somewhat obsessed. It's the longest commitment I've ever had, is with the hands. So, yeah.
That's so beautiful. And you do it so well. I mean, Beth is foremost authority on hand analysis. I mean, she's the one to learn from. She's just amazing. So good for you. That's just a beautiful story. And
Thank you.
And I so resonate with it because I know to the bottom of my toes that I'm doing my life's purpose right now. And the funny thing about doing your life's purpose is that it shows up, like you were saying. I mean, it makes you happy. It makes you have a spring in your step. It clears away all the confusion. You're not like indecisive. It's like you said, I mean, everything is, if this is my goal, what do I need to complete, and manifest this goal? And
that's right.
Everything is around that. And then it's just, I mean, all the gray and all the cobwebs just fall away, and it's a very clear path, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And it doesn't always happen in your 20s.
No, many people, I'd actually say the majority of people really hit their stride at 50. And I will say too, like, I'm going to be 50 in a year and a half. And I can't believe it. Like, 50, like, what? Anyway, what the hey is that about? Oh my God. Like, when my folks would say, oh, time goes fast, we're young, and we're like, nah, really doesn't go fast. But the more I study people's blueprints, the more I say to people, just relax. The main thing people need to do is relax and let life come to them. Because we're designed as energetic beings, and most of us simply need to wait for things to come in for us to respond to. And then we can put all our effort behind it. We're very much trained to figure it out with our mind. And that's why it doesn't work, right? Like, if you try, for example, a diet. If you go on a diet that someone else imposes that isn't in alignment with your intuition and your own body, it's not going to work. Versus a food plan that you're like, oh, that feels like doable. I'm not terrified by that food plan. It's food I like eating. Okay, all right, I can do that. So I think with everything in life, we've got to be the authority. For most of us, we really don't hit our stride to our late 40s, early 50s in owning our power and really know why we're here. Because even though I discovered that in my 20s, my life lesson, which is also in the hands, has been around intimacy and self-love and personal relationships. And even in the midst of teaching all this, I had a divorce, an annulment, breast cancer, and I'm almost done paying alimony. So even though I teach this stuff, right, I have a blind spot. So in the business arena, it comes naturally to me. It's not like I've never had problems, but it's like an area of ease. Whereas some people, they find their soulmate when they're 25 and they're still with that person. I've never had that experience. Like, I haven't ever been in an intimate partnership with an equal. I have not experienced that, and I'm not ruling it out, but it might not happen, and I'm okay with that, right? So we all have our destiny in a way, like what we're really here to contribute. And my soul came here to give this gift to humanity of consciousness around purpose. But as an individual, my karma or soul's test is to figure out how to balance what people want from me with self-care. Because now that I have made self-care, this is how I frame self-care. Well, if I do self-care, I'll have more energy to help people. That works really well for me. Now, other people need the permission to not want to help people because they think they should, and it's not their design. And it's so fun to say to a client, you really don't have to focus on helping people. And they're like, I don't? I'm like, no, it's design, like stop it. Just stop doing that. Go be selfish and go paint.
And it's so true. I had to do that when I was first getting into recovery and when I was first starting to work with Roy, because I was working in a battered women's shelter. And first of all, I was 21. I was working in a battered women's shelter, and when I started to address myself with Roy's help, I was like, why am I at a battered women's shelter? Like, I've never been battered. This has nothing to do with my life experience. Not that it's bad, not that you have to, but I was misaligned. Like, I was doing things that were not aligned with my soul's purpose and who I was. And and that's why I was overeating. And that's one of the steps in my new book, which is Heal Your Hunger, 7 Simple Steps to End Emotional Eating Now. One of the steps is about getting congruent with who you really are, because when we're incongruent, when we're doing things that aren't, what's this saying? I spent money I didn't have to buy things I didn't need to impress people I didn't like. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing, and why am I doing it? Because when we're misaligned and we're not congruent with our soul's purpose, just like you're saying, we have that disconnect, and we will be in turmoil, inner turmoil that will absolutely manifest as compulsive eating. If that's your tendency, if you're an emotional eater, if you're a drug addict, or you tend to drink too much, it'll manifest as drinking too much. I mean, whatever your poison is, you'll need it in order to survive living with that incongruency inside of you. So it's a very germane what we're talking about to the emotional eater's experience. So I just love it, Beth. It's just so beautiful. Some other things that I want to talk about. So the actual, give us a mini course in the hand analysis, and I know people need to come to you for that, but just sort of like what the hell is it anyway?
Yeah. So the first piece is that your fingerprints form when you're in utero between the 14th and 16th week, and they don't change. Right, so that information is with you for your whole lifetime. And in the fingerprint data is your life purpose, your life lesson, and your life school. The life purpose is the big why. It's why you're here. So in my fingerprints, my life purpose is spiritual teacher, business owner, and innovative role model. It's a little abstract. The essence of it is I'm here to help people find their purpose, monetize that purpose, and particularly people who are innovators, who are out on the edge there, maybe feel like they don't fit in. I do really well working with those types of clients because they need permission to bring their genius, right, which some people see as freakishness, bring that into the culture. Right, the mutation, the innovation, to bring that so the culture can move forward. So I'm very much on the edge of the edge, and I attract clients who are on the edge of the edge. These are people that are here to really shift society. They're not trying to fit in. They don't care about fitting in. They're interested in transformation. So that I came to discover that through my purpose. The next thing in the fingerprints, the lesson, is your blind spot. And this is the pattern that repeats over and over again. So depending on how your hand, the shape of your hand, the lines in your hand, that tells me about your personality. Your fingerprints tell me about your soul. The rest of the hand tells me about your personality. So some people's personality with their life lesson will cause them to overeat or be an addict. I can usually see addiction in the hand. I can see appetite in the hand too. A lot of people have trouble regulating appetite. It's part of their personality, right? It's like, and the reason, this is what's so fascinating about appetite, is they don't have permission to want in the first place. Like desire's a no-no, right? So taking up space, like really, like the body starts to take up space when their soul needs to take up space. Their soul needs to go, hey, I don't like that. I want this, and get that out of here. Right. So the life lessons are blind spot. And some people have their life lesson around appetite. Some people have their life lesson around trust. Some people's life lesson is around self-worth or about feeling rejected. So depending on what your lesson, some people have multiple lessons, those create those repeating patterns that we are often unconscious of. And we need people to point them out to us and do that inner work, as we say, the inner work. We're in this very interesting political time for really the world. Anyone paying attention to the news in the world right now we're in this very interesting time. And I was talking with someone recently about people's comments on Facebook. This is a perfect example of life lesson. And person will put out a point of view. They'll even maybe attack the other person. And then they'll contradict themselves in the next sentence. That's what our life lesson is like. It's like we're in this circular loop that we don't see, that we do not see. Transference, projection, whatever you want to call it, psychoactive behavior, right? We don't see it. And so the life lesson, once you name it, as an individual, you now have an internal red flag spotting technique. Oh, that's my lesson. Oh, that's my lesson. And it's funny, yesterday I was out with a girlfriend for coffee and we were having this great conversation. And then I shared something about my life and I went into my life lesson, which is victimization, of all things, victimization. And I started crying. Like I just started crying, like my lips started trembling and I was like, I can't believe that this thing happened. And it was almost like she felt it and she interrupted me. It was the craziest thing. She's like, no, you don't have to go there. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a good friend. Like she saw me going down this victim hole because she wasn't feeling my sadness or grief. She was feeling me feel sorry for myself and beat myself up, which is self-victimization, right? So it's good to surround yourself with people who call you out on your blind spot. Get a good therapist, deal with that stuff. And the more we understand the lesson, the more we can maximize the purpose. So that's in the fingerprints. The life school is like our operating system, and it's like our spiritual teacher, the life school. So we have the school of peace, school of wisdom, school of love, school of service. And depending on which school you're in, you're learning the lessons through trial and error of that school to optimize your purpose as well. So everything in your design wants you to have your purpose if you can get out of your own way.
So what's your, you said your life lesson is intimacy, is that?
Oh, victimization. But what I mentioned earlier so let me explain. I'm in the school of love, which is relationships matter most, connections, everything. Right? So we'll put this all together. So I'm in the umbrella school of love for me. My life lesson's victimization. The issue with victimization is boundaries. So where have I had the most boundary issues? In my love life, because I'm in the school of love. So boundary issues in the school of love, that's the nut. And the purpose, right? The purpose is chugging along to the degree to which I clean up those boundary issues in my personal life. So it's been a very interesting journey. And come to find out that the traditional kind of intimate relationship isn't even a match for what I came here to do. Like I was beating myself up like I should be married and have 2.5 kids and a dog. And, I actually did that and got divorced. So it's not like I did try it. It wasn't an epic failure, but I wouldn't call it like a big success either. And come to find out, that kind of traditional setup doesn't even work with why I came here. And that's the kind of permission I want to give to people. Like I like having a relationship sometimes. Like I don't want them. I don't want them in my bathroom. I don't want to see them every day. I don't want to sleep next to the person like ever. Can't sleep with someone in the bed next to me. I just don't sleep and then I get sick. So it's so freeing. That's what I want for people. Like you can set up life the way you want. In fact, one of my clients just this week, she said, Beth, I got sick. Oh no, my husband got sick. And so I didn't want to sleep next to him. So I started sleeping in the guest room. And now we're both sleeping like a dream. And now we get to figure out how we can each have our own separate room so we can sleep. Doesn't mean it won't be intimate, but we need to sleep so we stay healthy. These are the kinds of nitty gritty details in our life that change everything. And when we have permission, right, to be ourselves, we can set our life up so it works.
Well, and it
Yeah.
is so hard. And it's especially hard, I think, for emotional eaters because self worth is such an issue for us to have that permission and also self doubt and second guessing our inspiration or intuition is so typical for us. For years I'd know something like in my gut. I would know something. That's where my messages usually come, in my gut.
Yeah.
And so I would know something, but then my lack of self-confidence would come right in to second guess what I know and to just do all that head tripping on, are you sure, but what about this, but what would they think, and all that. And it's, before you know it, it's confusion, and I've lost that inspiration, or I've lost my courage to follow through on it. And that's just so hard for emotional eaters, and women in general. I think to have the worth, the sense of self-worth, to say, nope, this is what I know, and this is what I'm stepping out with, this knowledge, and I'm not going to apologize for knowing it. I'm not going to apologize for knowing it or acting on what I know. And I'm not going to say, this is a hard one for me, that I've always been like, if I have said something with, quite a bit of confidence, I know just a silly, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a big thing, just some silly thing like, oh, did you send that email? Yes, I did send it. And, or she's like, someone will say, oh, I didn't get it. And then but I know I sent it, I know I sent it. And obviously things can get lost in spam, but I'll say, well, maybe I'll just sort of backpedal and say, well, maybe I didn't, or something, where I'm like, no, actually, why are you saying that? You did, you did. So it's that very subtle denigration, of who I am. And it's just so debilitating. I mean, just saps our energy and our life force.
We're not here for other people. I know it's a shocker. We're not. We're here to individuate and differentiate as ourselves, and only then can we actually interact with people successfully. So I love that example of the email, right? I have the opposite thing. I'm like, what? I did send it. Check your spam folder. I'll send it again. Like, I don't look back now. It's like, I've made mistakes. If they're going to be cleaned up, that person will show up in my life again. And they do. If it's supposed to be, they'll show up and we'll patch it up. And if they don't show up, it was just perfect the way it was. I don't sweat it anymore, but I used to. My whole life was tied up in, please love me, please like me. I'll just overgive and do for you and do for you and do for you. And I'll do for you without you even asking, so that you love me. And I feel that led to my cancer, right? So my addiction was just giving and giving of my time and my money and my energy. And
That's so important to see that, and that too is such a common thing for women and emotional eaters, the people pleasing and the getting our validation from outside of us.
yeah, I will say something I've noticed in the hands about people who gain weight or struggle with their weight. Like, actually, I have clients who are bulimic, anorexic, the whole gamut. No, they get all sorts of weird food stuff. Like, they know, like, this is really disordered, right? The way they're eating. And what I've noticed in the hands, there's two things I've noticed. There's sort of extremes. There's one camp of people who have what I call the athlete lifeline, and they're really overweight. And I'm like, do you know that, like, you're supposed to be like exercising 2 hours a day? Like, that's actually how you're built. And they're like, well, I used to do that, and then I just got caught up in the so it's almost like when we have that much energy, it's this weird thing in the body. If we have that much energy and we're not outing the energy, we'll actually eat more food. It's very strange. So they gain weight and they're meant to be like muscular, like power, like shot putters, like that kind of energy. And then there's the highly sensitives. And they can get really big because that weight is protection, right? Like, please don't criticize me. Please don't hurt me. Don't come too close to me. So highly, highly sensitive people who have big appetites, which is in Venus. It's kind of a combo. A sensitive person with a large appetite for life can be on the student path, a very tricky thing. And it's actually learning how to not take anything personal. I know it sounds glib, but really it's not personal. And I used to take everything personal. And now I'm shocked when I do take something personal. Like, I'm like, "Oh, I remember that feeling," right? Like being worried at night. Like, what did they think about what I said? And it's like, look, if they didn't like what I said, they're going to tell me, or they're going to go tell someone else and gossip behind my back. And I can't do anything about that. So it's really not my problem now. So, yeah, so that's in the hands, just this. So that's what I love about hand analysis is someone really comes to know their own structure.
Right. Yeah. No, and it's so important to know thyself, So when we know ourselves, there's nothing, really nothing we can't do because it's like it empowers us. It gives us the tools, and makes things clear. So that's just so beautiful. Well, I love to wrap up my show with a question. Okay. And so the question you can give a little thought to, but the question is, what is your deepest hunger?
Hmm. I think at this point in my life, my deepest hunger is to have a partnership with a man where we both respect each other's huge needs for freedom, where there's mutual respect for one another's creativity. Because I'm kind of wired like a man like that. I always have been. I've always been ambitious, always been a worker, and I've always known I was here on a mission. And the mission is actually more important to me than an intimate partnership. As a woman, this is strange, right? And I kept thinking there was something wrong with me. And now I feel great about it. So if the man knows, like, oh, she's not giving up her mission, and he still wants to hang out with me, that would be a nice, tasty meal right there.
That's beautiful. I love it. It's just beautiful. And it's so funny too, because Roy and me, and that's so much of how we came together. It was not about a romantic relationship. It was literally about our mission of helping people with addictions and eating disorders. He helped me, and I was like, look, I need to help you help others. And that's how we started hanging out together, and that was our focus and our passion and our drive. And that's what we were about. And the other came later because it just made sense. We were together all the time. Right. But it's never been, it's never been at the exclusion of other people. Like, we always want to make sure that even though we're married, even though we're together, that our arms are open to love people, not sexually, but to love people and give, like, together. Yes. Our union empowers us to give more to the world is basically what it comes down to.
Right. And I think any kind of relationship other than that, for me, I just can't be bothered. Like, I don't have time for the pain. I don't have time for the drama, the entanglements. Like, I'm over it. And I think I had to go through all this kind of drama to go, why am I even engaging in this? I'm not even interested. I thought I should. That's the thing with the blind spot. I thought I should do this, and those shoulds, they're the killers. They make us sick. It's the not self, right? It's that lack of alignment you were mentioning. As we become aligned with, oh, this is how I am, and who I am is A-okay. I only got one of me, so I better love this me full on, 100%. And I have that feeling now, and it's made me like, I still have fear, but I have so much less fear.
Absolutely. It's freeing. It's absolutely freeing.
Yep. It really is. It's remarkable. So I love your mission. I love what you're doing. To everyone listening to this, thank you. And I wish for everyone to love themselves. Like, you love yourself and you heal everything, because you won't do something to yourself that's not loving. And you won't allow people that aren't loving to be in your field. It's all inside. And trusting, right? Like someone said yesterday, that old phrase, let go and let God. And it's like this, I feel like it's both and. It's like the human being, not a human doing, the human being agreeing, I'm going to love myself and I'm going to listen to my intuition. And with that, there's the listening to the divine.
Absolutely. They're
And
one
you
and
start
it's really one and the
yeah,
same.
it is. And you start channeling that relationship between the outer and the inner, and then life just opens up.
You bet.
So
That's awesome. Well, everybody can now see why I love Beth so much. And Beth has a wonderful gift to give. And you want to describe that?
sure. If you go to yourpurpose.com, there's a 3-part. Right. There's an interactive set of tutorials there, and you can start exploring the life school and some of the other fingerprint data we talked about today. And if you have any questions, let us know. I periodically send out a newsletter and content videos, and we're always doing fun things in the Your Purpose community. So happy to have anyone along who's interested.
That's beautiful. And again, if you missed that or if you're driving, you can check it out in the show notes at healyourhunger.com. So God bless you, Beth. I love you. I love you so much, and I appreciate your sharing your wisdom and your humor and your very wonderful perspective on life.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you so much, and
Okay.
I'll be seeing you soon.
Lots of love.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.